Hi everybody, my name's Amy Goldstone. I'm the People Wellbeing Lead here at Sherwood Forest Hospitals. I am here to talk about the topic we covered in Wellbeing Wednesday this week. So it's the 30th of March 2022, and we talked a bit about, well, we called it physical activity at first, and then actually we scrapped that and said it's just about moving more. So I've got a few slides to share just as a bit of a summary of this session if you're watching it on record and playback. So bear with me while I share those. So from current side. So as I mentioned, I sort of called this physical activity at first, and then I thought, you know what, that conjures up all sorts of thoughts in people's minds. And when I've said physical activity, or if someone says exercise to you, you might be thinking, oh, I've got to get in the gym and got to run, I've got to cycle. And actually, from an activity point of view, and it's even recognising the guidance, really, it's just about being less sedentary and moving more. So I did touch on the guidelines, and I asked people what they knew about the guidelines, because they changed probably number of years ago now, really, to kind of be a bit more flexible and recognise the different types of activity. So the strength building activity and the balance activity, they suggest that we try and do that at least twice a week. And we did have a laugh in the group that actually that means we can go shopping twice a week to build our strength. But carrying shopping bags, carrying children, carrying boxes and moving things around actually can build that strength, like yoga can, like gym can, going to the gym. And then the number of minutes. So they advise if it's activity that gets you breathing a little bit harder but you still able to have a conversation, they say 150 minutes. So that's the same as 30 minutes 5 times a week, but you can break it up however you like, as long as it's in blocks of 10 minutes, it counts. And or it might be that you do something really vigorous, but you do it for less time in the week. So they say 75 minutes is something quite vigorous. So climbing the stairs and running, sport. I mean, naturally, you don't do 75 minutes normally in one go with vigorous activity, so it might be broken over a few days. But that's the current guidelines for adults. There's slightly different guidelines for children that are available on the government website, and for older adults as well. So I asked everybody what stops them moving. So what is it that gets in the way? We talked about the weather. I think particularly this week in March here in 2022 is how we've had some really nice weather that we hadn't expected, and it's inspired people. But talked about having to be prepared for the weather and dressing appropriately for the weather to encourage us to go out. Talked about time. We did say about work, and availability came up with like your sessions at gyms and classes might not always be at the most convenient times, so that availability of activities that you can get involved in. You also talked about tiredness and exhaustion, which I think a lot of people can relate to at this moment. This year, it's just a lot of people are really exhausted and tired, whether it's from work or personal commitments at the moment. So we did talk about that, and then we went on to talk about how we could break down some of those challenges, which I'll come on to. But I did also ask everybody what their favourite ways to move were. So we had walking came up quite a bit, dancing came up a bit, because we had a bit of a conversation around this. Gardening was in there. My favourite one was laser tag. I'd never even thought about that as an activity, but one of the colleagues that joined us today talked about how they play laser tag in the garden, and you can go. There are places across the country that you can actually play, but a really good sort of opportunity to connect with your family and friends that you're playing with, but also to get your heart rate up as well. So I thought that was a really good fun one to share with everybody. That was favourite ways. So we kind of went on to talk about how these challenges and how we overcome them. So a lot of the suggestions were around routine and making that a part of your habit, so you automatically do it, a bit like when you get in a car, you automatically put your seatbelt on. So trying to build in small amounts of moving as a routine or habit that you don't actually have to think about, and that takes a bit of practice and takes a bit of planning. So another suggestion was the day before you're going to do that activity is to put all your clothes that are ready to go, so you almost trip over them before you you can get out of bed, so that you go and do that activity perhaps in that morning, or you put things ready so you can go straight after work if it's something you need to do. We need to wear different clothes for. We talked about perhaps doing activity with other people and that making that connection, but also having that accountability to someone else as well. So trying to reconnect with your activity buddy if you had one before. If you haven't had one before, actually just seeing who else in the organisation or your friends, family might want to do something active. So So that was another good suggestion. And then realistic goals came up as well. We were talking about how we feel if we set something ourselves, a task or a goal to do something, and it's just so big we don't get there. It can sometimes end up leaving us feeling a bit yuck. So in so many words, but so we talked about realistic goals, and no matter how small, they all contribute to build into a bigger picture. So the example I gave was I'm really keen to start cycling to work again. So you might see me on my bike soon, but having had a baby a couple of years ago, not really been that active over COVID. I've actually just started out going out for short bike rides rather than thinking, right, I'm going to cycle to work and back in one day, and be completely shattered. So yeah, it's thinking about those really realistic goals. It might even be taking it back before that. And then what are the other examples? So the other bit we talked about was walking and using walking in work. So walking, um, taking a couple of flights of stairs and then taking the lift the rest of the way. If you're in Kingsmill Hospital, walking meetings can happen anywhere as long as it's a safe place to do so. Obviously, being mindful of confidentiality, of course. But I've had a couple of walking meetings even this week, even though it was a bit drizzly. We were able to catch up and do part of our meeting outside as a bit of a walk, and it's really good for brainstorming and kind of thinking up new ideas, or just kind of getting filled in with on something with someone. Really good for your one-to-one sessions with colleagues to do 15-20 minutes of that outside, and then the rest of it, obviously, if you've got paperwork to do on the inside in a meeting room. So I would highly encourage that, where safe and appropriate to do so, if your colleagues can do walking meetings. So yeah, walking meetings. So I talked about some other services that exist as well to help encourage people to become more physically active. And Your Health Your Way, I talk about quite a lot. I deliver free physical activity for anyone who doesn't meet the physical activity guidelines, perhaps needs that little bit of support, perhaps needs some flexibility if they've got any kind of any disability or need as well. They can sort of help advise with that. So Your Health Your Way is yourhealthnots.co.uk is their website, and you can self-refer through that one. Of course, couldn't go talking about physical activity without mentioning our SFH virtual exercise group. And unfortunately, Craig couldn't be with me today in Wellbeing Wednesday or to record this, but Craig Short heads up our Fitness for All Sherwood Forest virtual exercise group on Facebook, and you can join that if you work for Sherwood Forest, and just get some inspiration from what colleagues are doing. There's some colleagues on there that do absolutely loads of activity, and then there's also loads of people that are starting to build on their activity from perhaps having not really done much. Some people have done sort of a couch to 5k approach for walking or running 5 kilometres. I post on there occasionally, but it's just good for inspiration and kind of spurring people on, and perhaps finding someone that you know in the trust that you could perhaps buddy up with as well. So just to let you know about that one. There is something called NHS Fit as well, which is a site that anyone can log into and sign up to. It's free. There are loads and loads of on-demand classes. That's what I've picked out to show you on here, but actually there's more to this. There's different advice, there's stuff around food and nutrition as well. So NHS Fit is currently a free resource for any NHS colleagues as well, for support. Like I say, loads of videos and different activities you can do, and just bits of information. And as you can see on there, yoga recovery programs, exercise at your desk, that sort of thing. So that's NHS Fit. Something I'm really looking forward to coming up in May 2022, we're going to talk about walking more. So we're going to do a walk this May together. And we're really going to be promoting what we're saying about walking meetings and walking together. Think about patients walking more, and staff walking more as well, colleagues walking more. More together and increasing steps. So watch the space for that. There'll be more coming out in the bulletin and on team brief as well on those. To think about walking meetings, actually we do have some walking routes planned out, so you can get a rough idea how long these routes would take. So anything from 5 minutes to 15 minutes depending which site you're on. In fact, if you walk around the reservoir at Kingsmill, for example, it usually takes at least 30 minutes to do, just so you've got a good idea for planning as well. So walking routes on there. the other bits I shared, and we actually did one of the chair-based exercises that we've got. There's a couple of links as well that we'll put with this video, to our physio colleagues that filmed some Pilates sessions and Tai Chi sessions that you can use. And so they are free and available on YouTube for anyone to watch as well. And the take a break sessions done by Your Health Your Way. This is the one we demoed actually around stretches from your desk as well to do. I would recommend doing this on a stationary chair, so you'll notice the colleague who demonstrates them is on wheels. I've chose personally a stationary chair to do these stretches, but just give you some idea of a couple of bits that you could do between meetings, even if you don't do the full 7-minute stretch on here as well. So these are to be shared around the organisation as well. So just a quick summary, like I say, of Wellbeing Wednesday today around physical activity. Scratch that, moving more. And if you want any more information from our wellbeing team or any of the bits and pieces that I've shared today, you can get us on the wellbeing inbox if you search for wellbeing on our email search and nhs.net. So really good to see everybody watching this back, and I'll see you soon. Thanks everyone. Bye.